The PC gave us computing power at home, the internet connected us, and mobile let us do it pretty much anywhere. Now generative AI lets us communicate with technology in our own language using our own senses. But figuring it all out when you're living through it is a totally different story. Welcome to Leading the Shift, a new podcast from Microsoft Azure. I'm your host, Susan Ettlinger. In each episode, leaders will share what they're learning to help you navigate all this change with confidence. Please join us. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, episode 90, Kung Fu Panda!
How to Train Your Dragon Warrior.
Be sure to vote for the Animation Addicts podcast at podcastawards.com. We have been nominated for 2 podcast awards. This is a huge honor. We are so thrilled and excited to have been nominated. We are nominated in the categories of Best Produced and Movies/Film. You can vote every single day until March 24th, so be sure to vote. If we win, we are going to do listener choice episodes through the end of 2015. Yeah, so all those movies that you guys have always wanted us to do, we're going to do them. So make sure to vote every single day at podcastawards.com. Thanks, guys. Welcome to the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, Don Bluth, and everything in between. We're your hosts, the terrific 3, Morgan Stradling, Chelsea Robson, and Mason Smith.
Oh, so, Grasshopper. Thank you for having us here.
Yes, that will be enough of those. Just kidding.
I know, this is supposed to be our culturally sensitive episode.
Yeah. Throw all hate at Chelsea, everyone.
Yes.
Just kidding. No, you should be allowed to try other accents. It makes us grow, right?
It makes us.
All right, so we are the Rotoscopers, and you, like I said, you're listening to the Animation Addicts podcast because we are animation addicts. We're obsessed with animation in all forms, and this show is devoted to our love of animated films. So each episode, we review an animated film, past or present, and this time we are reviewing the 2008 film from DreamWorks, Kung Fu Panda. So this is actually the first time that we've done, maybe not the first time, but we're doing back-to-back DreamWorks episodes. And then after this, we're going to be doing our first sequel. Well, we've done lots of sequels, but we're going to be doing Kung Fu Panda 2 after this.
Yeah.
So breaking all sorts of molds for the Rotoscopers.
We'll be all DreamWorksed out after this.
Yeah, get ready, guys. We won't be doing DreamWorks for another year, so
That's all you get.
I don't know. It's a fun series, and Kung Fu Panda 3 is like in production now. So plus, it's like it was Chinese New Year a little while ago, so it's pretty relevant, I suppose.
Yeah. And I guess we're not really doing series right now, but I guess this could be a tiger series, right?
Or panda.
Well, I don't know very many panda films.
I know.
But
We're just doing them all.
okay, so like I said, we are going to be reviewing Kung Fu Panda. So just some general information about this film. The studio was DreamWorks. Duh. The directors were John Stevenson and Mark Osborne. It was released June 6th, 2008, and had a budget of $130 million. And so if you remember from last episode, we reviewed Shrek, and that was 8 years prior, and its budget was $60 million, which I thought was pretty crazy. In just 8 years, you doubled your budget plus some. But that's okay. The budget increase was worth it because it made $631.7 million worldwide box office, which is very, very good.
Yeah, this was like a hugely successful animated film.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. You had Hans Zimmer and John Powell on the score. It's really good. Let's just say that. But some of the things that like really struck me about it were like there's not a lot of middle ground. It's either like crazy in your face or it's very smooth and melodic and Chinese-esque. Mm-hmm. I wish there was a little bit more of a middle ground. It might have made editing this episode a little bit easier because otherwise it's just going to be like a lot of in your face when it comes out. But definitely if you guys have a chance, go over and listen to it, buy it on iTunes. We have the link to buying that in the show notes as well. It's worth it. It's fun. I love anything with Hans Zimmer and John Powell. Make it fantastic.
Yeah.
Also, there was a little bit of interesting factoid about this movie. Now, this one definitely won its fair share of awards. it was nominated for basically every award out there, but there was only like one place where it really got its show. As far as the Academy Awards, that same year in 2009, WALL-E took the Best Animated Feature Film of the year, and the nominees were Bolt and Kung Fu Panda. And those really were the highlights of 2008. Sorry, Madagascar 2 and Horton Hears a Who.
Hey.
But there was a lot of drama that came out of the Annie Awards. Now,
Ooh, tell us.
well,
Ooh, I love drama.
one really interesting thing is Academy Awards recently have gotten a lot of flack about how when people in the industry don't really take animated films seriously is what a lot of the scuttlebutt is basically. And a lot of the people they'll interview afterwards after they made their votes and like why they pick certain movies. And there's been a lot of people who are like, my kids liked that one, so I watched it. And so I voted for it, and not having watched all of them or whatever. There's been a lot of that going on the past 2 years in the Academy Awards. But if you rewind the clock back to 2009, the Annie Awards had the most drama. In 2009, DreamWorks Kung Fu Panda actually swept the Annie Awards. And it was like an overwhelming defeat against WALL-E, which was totally shut out of the category. And there's one animator, Bill Plinton, who himself was a recipient of the Annie Awards Lifetime Achievement Award, or the ASIFA's Lifetime Achievement Award, and he criticized the organization's voting practices, and he said, I think Jeffrey Katzenberg, who knows a good publicity opportunity when he sees it, bought out the ASIFA Hollywood members for his entire studio, and then told them to vote on the party line. The unfortunate reality is that it feels like the elections were rigged, and they were bought. What a travesty. Up until this point, how you got into being a voter in the Annie Awards is you just paid for a spot. And something that DreamWorks was doing was just like every person who worked for the company was given a free voting card, basically.
Ooh.
And so there was a lot of drama that came with this.
This is what incited Disney to eventually boycott the awards, right?
Yeah, so the next year, Ed Catmull was like, I ain't having this unless you guys change everything. Which they did. They ended up going through and making it so you had to be like a certain status in order to vote, but yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really unfortunate, but good for the same time. I mean, it is business, and business is going to exploit weaknesses in the market for financial gain. Obviously, sweeping the Annie Awards would do great things for How to Train Your Panda. No. That would be an amazing movie. This movie was kind of How to Train Your Panda. But obviously that would do amazing things for Kung Fu Panda. However, it's very disappointing and sad that happened, but because it did allow the process to be revamped, the voting process to be made more fair, I think it is a good thing. I do really wish that we could see something like that in the Academy Awards today, just with regards to not just animation suffers from this. It seems there's been widespread distaste, I guess, for the process, how it's currently evolved, but particularly animation. I would like to see just something change in that because it seems to be not working. But
yeah,
I think the Academy Awards, as far as animation is concerned, is
a lost cause.
Pretty
yeah,
broken.
right.
Yeah, it needs to be kind of reworked. I feel like there's plenty of animated films out there that are art forms, but don't get the popularity they deserve. I don't know. I don't want to be like really cynical or jaded about this, but there's merchandising and a lot of big marketing stuff, so that people go out and see this film and get excited about it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
the little guys that don't.
Yeah, that same year, it was Slumdog Millionaire took most of the awards as far as live action goes.
Film.
It was a great film, but the thing is, like, I never would have gone to see it had it not gotten so much press and attention in the awards, So it's definitely a way to boost your numbers and get people talking about it and just getting it in the air. So it was just a frailty in the system.
I don't know. I still think this is a good film. I don't think it was right that it was kind of a scummy way of winning the Annie Award for it, but How to Train Your Panda would be amazing.
It really would.
Seriously.
They're pandas, Hiccup. We hate pandas. What if there's a good panda, Dad?
In a land of tradition and honor, one kung fu master.
Let's get started.
has trained 5 of the greatest warriors the world has ever known. But this master's biggest challenge has just arrived.
I'm coming!
Stairs.
Yeah!
Jack Black.
Go ahead, Panda. Show us what you can do.
Are they gonna watch, or should I just wait until I get back to work or something?
Just hit it. Get ready to feel the thunder.
Come at it with crazy feet. What you gonna do about crazy feet? I'm a blur.
You never seen bear style. Would you hit it?
How's that?
Everybody was Kung Fu.
Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Oh! Can I punch through walls? Can I do a quadruple backflip?
Focus.
Do I have invisibility?
Focus. That flabby panda is not the warrior.
You just need to believe.
Oh! That was awesome!
Let's go again.
This June,
When you focus on Kung Fu, you suck. The way to get through to you is with this. Have a dumpling.
DreamWorks Kung Fu Panda.
You have done well, Panda.
Done well? I've done awesome!
Yes, you have done awesome.
All right, so I remember watching the previews for this film, and I was really excited about it because I was really interested in the concept of Jack Black, like, doing an animated movie, because this came right on the heels of Nacho Libre, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which really, really cemented Jack Black into that kids movie thing. You know, I mean, after that, like, Tenacious D was kind of history. he was hosting the Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Awards. Yeah, School of Rock, all that stuff. So this kind of took his career in a different direction, but I think that Jack Black was perfect for this role.
Yes.
I think he was the only one that could have been Poe.
He actually did win for the Kids' Choice Award, Best Actor in an Animated Film.
Oh, good for him.
Aw, so talented.
Jack, you won it, but you're also the host, so I don't know what you want to do about that. Anyway.
So I don't remember the first time that I saw this movie, but I do remember seeing it. I do remember being excited for it, and I just remember just loving this movie altogether. And even watching it this time around, it's just like, man, this is such a good movie. I need to watch this more. And it's the same reaction I sort of had with Shrek. I love Shrek, and I remember how great it was. And, you know, watching these DreamWorks movies that are so incredible, I mean, it gives me so much respect for the studio and some of the great, like, initial concepts that they had. I think DreamWorks definitely suffers from overextending a good thing. How to Train Your Dragon, amazing. Shrek, amazing. Kung Fu Panda, amazing. Madagascar, amazing. Like, those initial concepts, like, are so good. And then they just milk it and milk it and milk it. And it just becomes kind of like worse and worse and worse. Sometimes better, sometimes, yeah.
Come on, Kung Fu Panda 2 is good.
We shall see. We'll do
All
that next episode.
Right.
But what do you guys think?
With the exception of Madagascar, I thought you were right. Madagascar, for
I
me...
just said that because everyone else loves Madagascar. I don't necessarily love it, but...
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, the number 3, when we went and saw number 3 of Madagascar, we're like, I actually like that one. Like, the other ones I didn't like, but the number 3 of Madagascar, I was like, this was good. The polka dotted afro was fantastic. Yeah, I agree. And I think, you know, I have so much respect for DreamWorks. And I know that in the initial days, like, there was a lot of, like, just bad blood between Disney and DreamWorks just because of how things went down. But when you look at even just, like, how much talent they have and, you know, had at the time and still have there today, I have a lot of respect for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this was the very first totally CG animated Kung Fu movie, you know? And it could have gone a horrible direction. I think originally they thought of a concept of a Kung Fu parody, but then they stopped themselves and thought, you know, hey, what, you know, there are good Kung Fu movies out there. They're not just good to make fun of. So let's take it seriously and make something that literally is a kung fu movie. And golly, the animation that they pull off for this film is just amazing.
Really was.
It's mind-blowing. And I remember being totally into it when I was in theater, when I watched it in the theater. And then I think I rented Kung Fu Panda 2 on Redbox. So I didn't get to see it in the theater, but like the action is really, really well done. And I don't know. I was thinking about this and talking about this to Shanna when we were watching it. Like, is it easier to choreograph and pull off kung fu sequences with animated characters rather than live action? Like, I feel like timing wise, you can kind of achieve what you want a little better with animation, but at the same time, it's probably really different type of animation. Lots of arcs, lots of perfect timing that you got to get down.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I just got done watching the Blu-rays with the bonus features for The Legend of Korra Book 3 and Book 4. And if you know anything about the Legend of Korra universe, it's just all martial arts. Waterbenders have a different style than, airbenders who have a different style than, firebenders and whatnot. And they really talked about how they have a martial arts master who takes real life martial arts styles and then adapts them to each one of these tribes, I guess. And it was just really interesting because there was so much work that went into it that he, as an animator, the animators had to look at the reference, and that the actual martial arts guy had to know exactly what to do, and then he had to modify it for certain characters. Like if it was a new airbender who didn't know what they were doing, he had to make it seem clumsy while also being in the style. And there was just so much that went into it. I imagine that the ultimate outcome would be better because you're able to achieve things that, realistically, if you had super strength and whatnot, you'd be able to do, and they'd be really cool. But I think it probably takes just a little bit more timing and effort to actually achieve that outcome. That's just my perception from watching those bonus features on there.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that with the way I thought of it was with a live action kung fu movie, usually a lot of your action revolves around a kung fu master, a kung fu star. So you had Bruce Lee back in the day, of course the big guys, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, the kid from Ong Bak. And, I don't keep up with modern kung fu movies, but there's, the guy from The Raid 2. So like they're the ones that kind of choreograph and do all these fights, but it's not like there are any kung fu masters who are animators, and this wasn't a motion capture film. It's very cartoony and it's very stylized, into a cartoon style. And so, they still pulled off this level of authenticity that just blew me away. And that's why you absolutely must do research so that your film, your short story, your game, whatever is believable. Like, doesn't matter if you're a student who's just working on like a 30-second short, or if you're a Hollywood director, like you must do your research, or else, audiences just aren't going to hold on to what you're showing them. And not only did the directors study martial arts, but the animators also took several hours of kung fu lessons to get the feel for the action. And then, like you were saying, Morgan, about The Legend of Korra, how there are different separate distinct fighting styles for different groups of people or characters. Mm-hmm. The Furious Five, as animals, they each use the kung fu style that's named after their animal species.
Oh, that's interesting.
So literally praying mantis style for praying mantis, and then crane style, tiger, and then Po uses bear style when he finally kind of gets his crap together against Tai Lung there at the end. Before that, he had no style. But what's cool is that, I don't know, I was just totally engrossed by the kung fu action from the beginning, especially with that really cool intro.
Yes, I love that intro. I think that is one of the things that stands out most. That this is probably the only moment I remember in theaters just being blown away by the animation in the opening sequence. That was actually done by James Baxter. And James Baxter, you might know, he's a Disney animator. He animated Belle. He was, assistant animator on Ariel. And he's just done all sorts of great Disney characters, but then went off and started his own studio. I think he worked at DreamWorks for a while and then went and started his own studio. So the 2D animation sequence in Enchanted, that's James Baxter. He was, because he was the main guy on Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. He's known for being amazing at horses. And anyways, I thought it was really interesting that he was commissioned to do this opening sequence. It's very stylized, 2D flat, almost like Samurai Jack, which was popular at the time. But I remember being blown away by it and just how much I loved the way that it looked.
Not to mention the quotes from this awesome part.
He's
Legend.
too awesome and attractive.
The warrior said nothing, for his mouth was full. I really like it.
It does a great job of just letting you know that this is going to be funny. It's not taking itself too seriously. Like, even in this dream sequence, it's very literal with what Poe would be thinking.
Well, the ox who like challenges him, he's like, I see you like to chew. Why don't you chew on my fist? That's Wayne Knight, he was Al from Toy Story 2. He's Newman on Seinfeld.
Ah, yes.
So it's like a little hidden Wayne Knight Easter egg, I suppose. Yeah. But I really like it. We should hang out. Agreed. I love it.
They had a lot of really funny gags in this movie. I really appreciated
a lot, and they made it funny and entertaining without it being a parody. Like, in some ways it was a parody because it kind of made fun of a few tropes here and there, but it wasn't like Kung Pao or Kung Fu Hustle or something like that.
Mm-hmm. They did a really good job with, specifically, I felt like their subtle humor was fantastic. Later on, there's a part where, the praying mantis kind of like looks at him, and it's just that awkward moment, and then his antennae like chirp, and it's just like something like that was just like perfectly timed, just to add that little bit of awkward but really funny moment, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
I love right after this dream sequence, you realize Poe is a huge nerd. He's just one of those guys who lives in his bedroom, has action figures of, everything that he's obsessed with.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey, nothing wrong with that. We are
Let us nerds have our action figures.
Hey,
it's us.
It's us. For real. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying he's a nerd. It's obvious.
Yeah, it's true.
There were several moments where I was like, I felt like that before. Awkward.
I love his adoptive father. Oh, spoiler alert for the next film, but I think it's pretty obvious that Poe is not the duck's real son. But anyway, I love that his duck dad is kind of like the most stereotypical Asian guy they could have gotten.
Well, it's the same voice.
You had the noodle dream.
It's the same guy who does the Royal Vizier or whatever for Mulan. Shifu, yeah.
It is a woman. She'll never be worth anything.
You men owe me a new pair of slippers. And the moment he started talking, that's all I could think about.
I bring a proclamation from the Imperial government. There should be Huns in Kung Fu Panda 3.
There should be.
Mashup.
Yeah.
And dragons.
That's what we should do. One of us should make a mashup of the Kung Fu Panda characters fighting the Huns.
It'd be an excellent crossover.
Yes. If I were cool
I would
enough,
ship that.
I would do it.
Very cool. And then we're introduced to the Furious Five right afterwards.
Mm-hmm. They're cool.
Master Shifu. Hey, so I didn't know this, but Shifu himself is a panda. He's a red panda.
Yes, a red panda. So I don't know why he's being so biased against
red panda.
Big old normal
panda. Because he's not
panda.
a fat panda. He's a panda who's actually made it in Kung Fu life. Yeah. The Furious Five, man. So my only beef with this film is the Furious Five.
Tell us more.
Well, take a look at who cast them, and since apparently we're not real animation addicts, if we don't know the actors, I'm going to go over the actors who play the voices of these Furious Five. So, Jackie Chan as Monkey, I guess he would be the most kung fu worthy. And then you've got like Angelina Jolie as Tigress. Crane is played by David Cross. Oh, I love him.
And if you don't know why we're laughing because of Arrested Development.
Because Tobias.
You have to watch Arrested Development.
And I currently don't have any Tobias quotes that are appropriate for this podcast.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, nope, can't say that. Nope.
I'm afraid I should.
Blue Man Group.
Nope, can't do that one. Yeah. And then Seth Rogen, who I absolutely can't stand, as Mantis. And then Lucy Liu plays Viper. And so you've got these big stars playing the Furious Five, but like, the film's not about the Furious Five, you know? They're like the Three Musketeers. It's always about that one kid who wants to be the Three Musketeers than the actual Musketeers. But they barely had any lines. Like, I read something like Jackie Chan recorded all his lines in like a few hours and then he just left, you know?
He didn't have that many lines, so...
He didn't. That's the thing, is that the stage presence of the Furious Five is not as big as Jack Black. Like, why did they need a Furious Five? Why couldn't they be a trio or a Furious Four? You know, I'm sure that would have knocked off like $1 million off of the budget for each of them. I don't know. Angelina Jolie doesn't seem that cheap.
I feel like with Jackie Chan, like, he was just like a staple. Like, oh, this is a Kung Fu movie. We gotta get Jackie Chan. So they just threw him in there, but they didn't really give him a big role. And then some of these other people, it just seems like they needed big name actors because that's what DreamWorks is all about.
Right, and I don't know why they wanted David Cross as Crane. Like, okay, David Cross is great as Crane, but like, why? You know, I'd like to sit down with the casting guy for Kung Fu Panda and be like, why? You know, like, why not cast someone who actually has to do with? Well, Lucy Liu did Charlie's Angels 2 and Rush Hour, I think, but like, why didn't they cast someone like Ji Zhang, who was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and House of Flying Daggers, and why Seth Rogen as Mantis? Like, I really don't get... One, I don't get Seth Rogen at all. Can't stand him. But why did they put him in this movie, you know? So I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, they
we'll
really
send a
didn't
tweet
have...
out to whoever was the casting person.
Yeah. They really didn't have much to do with it. I do remember specifically Angelina Jolie being very highly pushed because you just had Tomb Raider, you know, and all the movies that she's done.
She was making a comeback, yeah.
Yeah, and so she was like big.
Rising.
She had a good year. I think I actually went thinking, oh, I'd like to hear a little bit more of Angelina Jolie in this, how she would do as a voice actor. But her as a voice actor is just very plain. Like, there's not a lot of emotion there. Mm-hmm. She just was not a very trained voice actor yet. She's probably gotten better, but at the time it wasn't fantastic. So
yeah, well, they expand her role a little bit in the sequel, but yeah. So anyway, I do enjoy the Furious Five, like, as the concept and the animation. Like, I think that their styles are really interesting and all the kung fu action is really cool. I love the scene where they're trying to take down Tai Lung and all that stuff. But why such big voice actors, you know? But one of them is hoping to be the Dragon Warrior.
Whoa.
My gosh, they say the word Dragon Warrior like, well, they say the phrase. They say the phrase Dragon Warrior like 800 times in this movie, and it's always Dustin Hoffman because he's got just that really epic sounding voice, you know? So he's a Dragon Warrior.
I'm interested in the origin of this Dragon Warrior. Do they kind of talk about it? Was this something that
Morgan's a skeptic.
Was it something that the tortoise invented?
No, it's a 1,000-year-old thing. I mean, maybe the tortoise was that old, but
it's a prophecy.
Well, that's pretty unfortunate.
What? There's always a prophecy, man.
Yes, it's true. And he was actually quite good. It's what I love about this movie, just like skipping to the end, is that it's about like the unexpected, I guess. Like, he's an unexpected hero and he's not trained in the traditional ways. Yes, he is formally trained, you know, by the end, but it's not what you expect and he still gets the job done. Mm-hmm. So same thing with the actual scroll itself, which we will talk about when we get there. But so yes, apparently after 1,000 years, they decide today is the day. I mean, that would be... No wonder he clears out the shop. It's like, go to the Dragon Scroll choosing, go.
Don't pay. His dad's like, hey, hold on. And I don't know, is Oogway like 1,000 years old? He seems to just do some like really spontaneous things, you know?
Well,
like, whoop, Dragon Warrior, here we go. Whoop, I'm gonna die and fade away, you know?
Yeah, well, those Galapagos tortoise... they live to be over 100 years old. And I read that in captivity, they've lived to be over 170 years old, which is just blows my mind. And so I imagine that in this cartoon universe that could be extended to be 1,000 years totally.
Yeah.
I don't know how old that guy is, but if that's in real life, how long they live, I can't even imagine how much that guy has lived in cartoon verse. Yeah.
So who's older, Crush or Oolong or Oogway?
Oogway,
yeah.
Faux show. I mean, Crush, come on.
I love his character animation.
Yes. He was one of my favorite characters.
He's very shaky and frail, you know? And
yes, it's almost as if he had Parkinson's a little bit.
I love the gag where he's blowing out all the candles one by one, and then he blows out a few more, and then he looks at Shifu and smiles, and then he goes back to blowing them. And Shifu's like, I've had enough.
Oh, that's good.
It's a good little comparison between the two.
Subtle humor.
Sets up a good relationship. Yeah. So everybody shows up at the Jade Palace for Kung Fu time.
Palace. I'm in awe of those stairs. I tried to Google to see how many stairs lead to the Jade Temple, or Jade Palace, and I couldn't figure it out. But holy cow, that's not even possible, even in cartoon universe.
Well, the thing is, like, they have a lot of stairs in China. So it's possible.
I'm sure there's some animator or some set dresser out there that knows exactly how many stairs they are.
Well, I'm interested. That person needs to contact us.
All right. Official call out. If you're the environment designer or asset builder who created the stairs, we want to know how many stairs there are, or if anyone can take the time.
Please send us a voicemail.
Yeah, look at the still frames and count exactly how many.
Nice.
You will get a prize.
And I love how Poe is such a fanboy. I mean, we were already introduced to that in kind of basically the opening scene, but it doesn't stop. And it's so cute.
It's very endearing, yeah.
You realize, like, oh, this is like what he's been, like, so excited for his whole life. This is the only thing he cares about. And it's happening.
It's like when we met Don Bluth and we were so awkward. That was fantastic.
Oh, yes.
Just saying.
We'll never talk of that again.
What?
So I one thing I love is he's definitely determined. I make the analogy, it's like a Trekkie trying to get into the Star Trek panel at the H Hall of Comic-Con. If you've ever been to Comic-Con, you know that reference. But for real, I mean, he's getting there early, but not really because he had to work. But he wants to be first person in line, you know, cheering him on, excited, getting into the big event, and the doors are closed. If he just would have left that stupid cart behind, he would have been fine.
Hey, we have to make money here. Gotta sell them noodles.
He didn't sell any one. So there's just extra baggage.
Oh yeah, he didn't. He was like, I don't want to sell noodles. I love Kung Fu! Kind of a Nacho Libre part, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so the universe brings us a new Dragon Warrior.
He comes flying out of the sky.
He came, Tai Lung's like, I heard that he came flying to Earth in a ball of fire or something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Oogway does not care if he is not one of the Furious Five. But he knows something that Shifu doesn't.
No, he does not.
But I can imagine that Shifu seems really frustrated because he is afraid of Tai Lung.
Well, and
tiger.
Yeah. Well, no, he's not a tiger. He's a snow leopard.
He's a snow tiger. Oh, he's a snow leopard. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A little overkill for that jail, huh? Well, I mean,
my gosh.
Reason, as we see what happens.
1,000 guards, one prisoner.
One prisoner. I wonder if there's really 1,000 guards shown in the prison escape. Okay.
Again, if you worked on this scene. Just kidding.
We need to talk to some Kung Fu Panda artists. I know that the guy who designed Po was a BYU graduate. That's why there's a giant Po the Panda statue in in one of the buildings. Nice. And then, so that's Michael Clark Duncan as head Rhino boss. And I'm a huge fan. I mean, he was the guy from The Green Mile. He did a couple of other movies. And he always has the heartiest laugh. I love how he's just so confident, and he keeps messing with that duck who's just totally terrified and does not want to be there. You know? And then even when Tai Lung starts to escape, the duck's like, okay, I want to leave now. And he's like, no, you're not going anywhere. Neither is anyone. Nobody's going anywhere. A little stubborn, I guess.
And no one seemed to have gotten killed in that big escape. It's very animation. It's just,
very kids movie.
Knocked out.
Well, we never know what happens to Tai Lung after the skadoosh.
Oh, that's true.
But anyway.
They put him back in the cell, and no geese are allowed to visit.
Yep. Oh, yeah, because it was that
his
stupid
tail.
feather. They should have been like, we're going to have to search you for loose feathers. or something like that. We're going to have to pluck you.
I'm so ticked off that I'm molting.
Oh. Yeah.
So then we move in and we get basically intimidation by Master Shifu. And he says, if he's still here in the morning, I haven't done my job. And this is sad.
He's determined to make him go away and replace him with one of the Furious Five. I love Shifu. Like, okay, for one, Dustin Hoffman's voice is like, it's almost too epic for this film. But also, I really like Shifu. He seems like one of the more complex characters. Mm-hmm. You know, he's really grumpy. He's like Shrek. He's like grumpy, but he also has layers that explain, you know, why he is the way he is. And of course, we have a little explanation of why he's so cranky.
And why he can't find inner peace.
Ah, inner peace. Inner peace.
I really liked the conversation that this talked about, that this brought up about like inner peace and, you know, just those types of thoughts. I was like, yeah, that's cool, man. I'm very hippie, I guess, for that to really strike me as cool, but I liked it.
Well, he does have a lot of inner turmoil, you know. Turns out he feels a lot of guilt about Tai Lung. Mm-hmm. At the same time, he'll never have another student that was like him, which is why he has this kind of love, like, kind of harsh relationship with Tigress, because in the end, she didn't really replace Tai Lung, although she's very talented. And she feels that pressure too, you know? So, I don't know. I like Shifu because he's got a lot of feelings.
The feels.
So he's got a lot of layers too. Yep, feelings. Also, there is now a level 0. As Poe demonstrates. I love that little thing that he has to knock over. What? We usually use that to train children and to prop up the door when it gets hot.
Oh man. When he first walks into the Jade Palace and he's like looking at all of the artifacts, he's like, I've only seen paintings of that painting.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
So good. And then when
the sword's so sharp you can cut yourself by looking.
Like, ow! The invisible hammer of this. Ooh.
And he just stays there for a second looking at the invisible weapon.
Again, more fanboy moments.
But then my favorite part, though, and which I thought was the greatest gag, was the whispering warriors in the vase or vase, and then it knocks it over, and you just hear the
you hear and he keeps stepping on it, and you keep hearing them all. I really liked that. I noticed that on this round watching it. That was pretty funny. Oh,
it made me laugh. I got a good chuckle out of that one.
Yeah, and so rough first day. And he's like, I don't know. I love his awkward moment with Crane. Well, you don't belong here, you know. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, well, I know. I don't know if I mean this is where I sleep. This is my bed. Oh, okay. I'll see you later.
Crane, you're awesome.
And then he just stands there for a second. He's like, oh man, did you say something? Were you say something to me? No. It's cute.
It is cute. So I noticed this in this scene, but I think it was just anytime one of the felines was in darkness, Tigress's eyes kind of just had this inner glow to them, which I thought was so cool. And then I noticed that Tai Lung had it as well. And I just thought it was a really neat effect. I don't think cat's eyes do that in real life, but it's cool they do it here.
Well, they do when you shine a light in them.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't have its own glow outward.
So in CG land, they had a guy behind the camera flashing a flashlight in everyone's face. She just flat out says, you don't belong here. Really?
Which is, I love that scene because the Crane says it, and it's a joke. It's just misunderstanding. But she says it, and she really means it. And so it makes it hurt that much more. Because you can kind of see, where he's falling among the group. Some accept him, some partly accept him, and some do not.
Yeah. Tigress is kind of interesting because she's really tough and she wants to be the best and she's the most focused probably out of the whole group, and yet she's still denied the title of Dragon Warrior, you know? Mm-hmm. And they go into her character a lot more in the sequel, as we'll see, but I don't know. They could have taken it in a direction where her jealousy kind of drives her to betray Poe, or I don't know. You know how some of that happens, you know?
Oh, I know.
I'm glad that they didn't in this one.
The whole jealousy thing. Well, yeah, me too. It's interesting. The Furious Five, they're kind of very separate or very detached from Poe, but they're still a big part of the story, you know? Mm-hmm. I don't think the storytellers had really found out a really, really compelling way to use the Furious Five until the sequel. And
Man,
anyway.
just want to jump to the sequel.
Sorry, I just
Next week.
Spoilers.
Yeah, like next episode.
And
But
don't
no,
spoil
it's
it
not
for
a
me because I'm
spoiler.
not quite sure whether or not I've seen the
I
sequel or not.
haven't seen it. So
Okay, no spoilers.
No spoilers.
Poe dies and King Julian saves the day. And Turbo is the new Dragon Warrior.
The new Dragon Warrior. How to Train Your Panda 2.
And then Hiccup lands on he comes down on Toothless and he's like, heard there were dragons here. But anyway. So yeah. So rough night for Poe, and then at the same time Tai Lung has like, now is the time to break from prison.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's Ian McShane doing his voice.
Yes.
He should have been Jim Cummings. That would have been great.
You're
Or
a big Jim Cummings fan. So
or
am
the
I.
guy who was Scar, who voiced Scar on Lang.
Jeremy Irons?
Jeremy Irons, yeah. Scar, what a guy.
So then we go, since we've talked a little bit about Prison Break, the morning.
Tai Lung is a platform master. Like, you gotta be really good at platform games like Mario if you can jump up things that are falling
Oh,
down.
yeah. Yes. There was
Also,
a game.
the color.
There was a Super Nintendo game, the Lion King Super Nintendo game. There's one
speaking of Lion
scene
King.
where you're in the jungle where you had to jump up these platforms that were falling down a waterfall. And so as I was watching this, I was like, man, I remember that. That was a really hard part of that game.
Wow. Tai Lung is hardcore. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I love the lighting in the prison. You know, it's kind of this like subdued blue, but all the highlights are red, you know? So it's very harsh. Mm-hmm. I feel sorry for people who are colorblind who have to watch it. But so yeah, Tai Lung is pretty cool. And he manages to not kill anyone, but still be the bad guy. Mm-hmm. That's the magic of animation, folks. Yeah.
And then there's the inconvenient timing of the Grandmaster dying, since he really is the only one currently who can beat Tai Lung. And now he's gone, so good luck, Furious 5.
He kind of just decided to, you know?
Yeah.
Like, time to fade away in a bunch of lotus petals.
But what a way to go. If I could choose my death, it would be by fading away into a bunch of lotus petals.
I guess.
Suppose.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, anyway.
And so then the Furious 5 go out to stop Tai Lung, and initially it's just Tigress. She's going to do it on her own, but of course they're a team, so they all go together. So they're off battling, and then we go to the scene where, what's the master's name? The panda?
Well, Shifu finally gives Poe a chance because he realizes that,
Great, I have no other options. I don't have my backup anymore.
well, he has no other options, but also he notices that Poe actually has strengths and that his weakness for food and for, you know, being goofy is his greatest strength, you know? And so he knows how to get through to him now with dumplings, and he teaches him how to discipline himself and fight and basically visualize everything as if he were getting a dumpling.
Learn the rules of the game and play to win. He knows how to do this. He realized that he was going about training him entirely the wrong way. You need to adjust.
But at the same time, I love Poe's character because during the humiliation of being beat up by all the Furious Five and not being able to do anything, like, instead of getting really down on himself, he's more like, this is so cool, I'm being beat up by my heroes. You know? He has an extremely good attitude for how poorly he's doing. And I think any other character would have turned back at that point who didn't have this, you know, who was at the pathetic skill level that Poe was at. And
yeah,
so
like,
I like him for that.
He has this ability that he has like a lack of self-awareness to an extent that allows him to be
Kind of
resilient.
oblivious.
Yeah, he's able to be resilient when this would bring most people down, but it just like water off his back because he doesn't actually, I think, internalize, you know, what people are saying to him or the actual gravity of the situation. But it's kind of like his fatness. It's able to protect him from what really hurts.
Yeah.
Wait, can we go back to the whole scene with him and the acupuncture? Then Tigress comes in and says, and you keep coming in here, not even taking anything seriously. And then his face goes all wonkus and it's like, no, that was my fault. I grabbed the nerve that messed with his face. I thought that was a good line. It was funny.
That was pretty good. Yeah. And so eventually Poe kind of learns the ropes, and finally he can eat, you know, and oh my gosh. I think this is one of my favorite animated sequences ever, like where Shifu's like, you are free to eat, you know?
Oh, Yeah.
And the little fight between him and Shifu is freaking hilarious. Like, could you imagine being an animator or like a story artist and like being like, hey, let's have him do this or let's have him do this? Like, just thinking of really inventing like funny ways for them to go after each other with the dumplings. Like, it goes down to them like fighting with their chopsticks and like kicking each other's, like flicking each other's fingers, you know.
Which comes into play later.
This training sequence, I don't know how long it took Tai Lung to travel there, and how long the Furious 5 were out and whatnot, but this training seems way, way too short. It almost seems like it was a weekend sort of thing. Did you guys get that impression?
Yeah, those montages never really have a good sense of time.
Like, I feel like if they would have had, seasons changing or something, then I would have got more of a feel for it. But because it felt like it was just like, oh yeah, boom, few hours, we're done, you're good, master. It didn't make me really believe the fact that he was really truly trained. I mean, these, the other members of the Furious Five have been training since they were, cubs, and he just walks in and does it in a weekend. I don't know. That I did not like that. I didn't feel.
It takes years to develop your split.
Exactly. Okay, so then we go to the Dragon Scroll, which we finally get to see what is inside, and it's blank. And then I love Poe. He's like, "It's blank. Here, look. No, I am forbidden." And then he's just like, "Ah, screw it." And he looks.
And he grabs it and looks at it.
It's such a good scene. There's like, this movie's funny. Like, it's not the same type of humor as Shrek.
No.
But it just has these little tiny subtle moments that are funny. And there are non-subtle moments that are explicitly funny as well. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So what do you think about the message of the scroll being blank?
To make something special, you have to believe it's special.
There is no secret ingredient.
I'm sitting here and I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I agree with it, but what do you say?
Oh, so you're probably not a fan of celebrating mediocrity just to make them people not feel mediocre.
I kind of have an issue, but I understand what it's saying. I think a lot of times things are special, but you're not acknowledging that it is.
Right.
So therefore it's not. But we shouldn't make everything special just because we're acknowledging everything to be special, because then nothing is special. So
You should hang out with Brad Bird.
Yeah, he's taught me well.
I know. When everyone's super, no one will be. But yeah, let's see. I don't think it really means that.
No, it's a different take on that, but not.
I wouldn't go as literal and as I wouldn't generalize to say to make something special you just have to believe it's special. But Poe's conflict is that he doesn't want to be himself. When he confides in Shifu that like. He was like, I don't know. At the one thing that kept me going through like you trying to make me leave was possibly being able to improve under you as my master, because I thought you could be the only person who could turn me to not be me, Mm-hmm. And I think Poe is aware that he's just a klutz and that he doesn't have any skill, but he wanted to pretend that he was something he wasn't. But in the end, it was more of he didn't have to pretend, or he didn't have to desire to not be himself, because himself was what everyone needed, So it was one of those, it literally is one of those unlikely hero themes that maybe doesn't apply. I don't know. It sounds so mean to say that it doesn't apply to everyone, but at the same time, I think that was Poe's deal, was that he just had to believe in himself because it was destiny, because he really was chosen to be the Dragon Warrior.
I think a lot of it has to do with the phrase itself is there is no secret ingredient. I mean, because a lot of the times, every time that they talked about the Dragon Scroll, the Dragon Scroll, the Dragon Scroll, it was almost like saying that there is this secret out there that you will only be fulfilled when you have that. When you have something bigger, when you have something better and greater, that's when you have fulfillment. And then when you open it up and all you see is your own reflection, like this is what you need to have fulfillment, it's you. You need to be okay with you. And I think that was one of the major themes of it, because, I mean, I keep wanting to say Chifu. What is his name?
Shifu.
It's with an S, not a C.
Yeah. Shifu, he's been struggling with having inner peace this entire time. And a lot of times when we have problems with inner peace, it's because we think that we're, trying to impress somebody, or we're trying to reach a certain level later on it talks about pride. Like, all I wanted was for you to be proud of me. I was proud of you, and that blinded me from what you were becoming. And, but I think that everybody is just kind of looking for somebody to acknowledge them and to just be approved of. And when it comes down to it, when you open it up, all you really need is to approve of yourself. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. Yeah, I like the there is no secret ingredient concept more than to make something special, you just have to believe it's special. Because it's not like Poe didn't have to work. I mean, the montage lasted like 5 minutes, but it's not like Poe didn't have to work hard to improve himself. I think the point was that the power to be a hero was in him and not necessarily in this mystical element that you have to find, that's out there, In other words, I guess you don't have to search very far to find excellence if you have the desire. Yeah. And you can believe that you're special, and that you have the power within you to improve and succeed and to fulfill your destiny, as it were. Also, there's this cool message of turning your weaknesses into strengths, which I'm a firm believer in.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Poe learns to use his weight and use his goofiness as his strength.
Quick shout out, speaking of using his weight, and all I can think of is every time he got hit by something, you hear the boing. And I am really a big fan of the sound editor on this movie. It was fantastic. From the cricket little to boing. I was like, yes.
Yeah, it was good sound design. And then we were talking about Poe's, like, I don't know if it was humility, but just like, good attitude about things. And then you have Tai Lung, who is not very humble at all. He believes that he is rightfully the Dragon Warrior, and he's going to take that right if he has to.
Mm-hmm. Here's my question on age. He says he's been in captivity for about 20 years. How old do you think he was when he was, arrested, quote unquote?
Well,
18 or so, maybe.
Yeah, 18-ish, but as this real life where a tiger or a snow leopard matures at age like 3. Or I think, imagine, like, he was basically becoming into adulthood.
Yeah.
This guy's probably 40 if we were to get rid of the animal age associations and just convert it to human.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was just trying to figure out, like, how old is everybody here? Because, like, all of the Fantastic Five are
20 years younger.
Yeah.
Furious Five.
The Furious Five. I mean, are they all... I'm pretty sure that they're all...
That's another 20. Series, but there's only 4 of them, and that's different.
It's pretty fantastic.
So, okay, so we have the final battle, basically. The big ending, and there's Tai Lung fights a lot of different people in this section.
Yeah, he's going to tear everything up, but first he wants that scroll, and he's going to take it from Shifu, and poor Shifu doesn't... I don't think he wants to really defeat Tai Lung, or he thinks he can. I think he just thinks that he'll be defeated, but he'll buy enough time for all the villagers to get out of town. But Shifu's confrontation with Tai Lung is tragic, because, like, Shifu realizes that he created the monster that Tai Lung became. He pushed him too far to be the best, but also at the same time, Tai Lung was greedy for power, and he wanted that scroll so that he could be the Dragon Warrior.
And he said that all I wanted was your approval. And I'm like, at the same time, I'm thinking, Shifu gave a lot of approval to you. Like, you were buds. It was everybody else that he scrimped on the approval ratings.
Well, maybe he did. There was just that one moment when Tai Lung banished him, and Shifu could have spoken up and defended Tai Lung, but or when Oogway banished him, but Tai Lung, he was kind of shut out. And that's what made him go on his rampage. So there is that kind of, you see a moment when Tai Lung, you see that there could have been a good side to Tai Lung, or maybe there was just kind of like a tortured soul kind of thing going on. But, no, he's too cruel, he's too angry, and so he's gonna finish off Shifu And there's crazy kung fu moves being used here. Like I love that super slow motion where he throws a sword at Shifu and Shifu kind of deflects it, you know, but at the same time he's watching his reflection in the surface of the sword, and just really over the top kung fu stuff that I really like.
A lot of effort went into planning that scene.
Yeah, and then of course, you know, Tai Lung is about to defeat Shifu, but then, hey, you, not quite, you know. Who should show up but our unlikely hero?
So pathetic, but awesome. And attractive. So I love
no
him.
charge for attractiveness.
Or awesomeness. It's the other way around. So I just love, he climbs up these stairs, he's still out of breath, like nothing's really changed. But that doesn't matter, because that's not his strength and that's not his power. His power comes from something else. And so, I mean, huge battle, and just his tubbiness protects him and is quite an asset. He can bounce things around. He can sustain impact. Yeah, he's a good little warrior.
Yeah. And, you know, when you look at this, like, there's like a million animated films with the whole unlikely hero or, you know, protagonist wants to be something he isn't, you know, and all that stuff. Just off the top of my head, a snail who thinks he can do the Indy 500. Also by DreamWorks. But this one stands out among all the others because it's so solid and entertaining. I really think Jack Black really shines in this role. And this part is fun because he's actually having fun, and there's like in his fight against Tai Lung, because he's finally the hero that he wanted to be. He's living his dream, and he's actually doing pretty well, you know?
Yeah.
I love the part where the scroll gets lodged in this tree up on top of this building, and he just envisions a dumpling, and then all of a sudden he can go up, and Tai Lung's like, no, the scroll has given him powers. He totally doesn't get it.
That's so awesome. And then I love the conclusion of this whole epic battle is enter the skadoosh move. And I remember when this movie came out, like, I think I maybe saw this with kids, but I remember skadoosh was the big thing about this movie. It became the new thing, was saying skadoosh. But it's just perfect because he's like, yeah, I figured it out. And Tai Lung is freaking out because he knows the power of this move. You're lying. Oh, you're making this up. And then boom.
You know what happens when I flex my pinky.
Yeah. So I guess that totally like disintegrated Tai Lung, because it's not like they showed him back in jail, you know, like a Disney film, or
maybe they're saving him for some future sequel.
I guess. I don't know. I think as villains go, there's better to come, much better to come. I'll just say that in the Kung Fu Panda series, but yeah.
I loved the quote at the very end when he's like, "Oh, I totally forgot about Shifu. We gotta go find him." So he like climbs up the stairs again, but then Shifu's like, "You're alive, or we're both dead."
He's like, "No, Shifu Master, you can't die." "I'm not dying, you idiot." I mean, Dragon Warrior.
I found inner peace.
Oh, good old Shifu.
It happened good times.
And he's like, "Now let me lie down." He's like, "So you probably don't want me to talk, if you can help it." He's like, finally, after like a minute, he's like, "Do you want to go get some food?" All right.
Yeah, okay. When you're working with a Poe, you just got to go with the flow. Even though you spent your whole life trying to find inner peace, nope. Yeah, it's time to move on from that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we move into these, the bookends this film. We have amazing opening and a yet amazing finale with the end credits. So much love for the 2D credits. I just think it's so awesome because we're always talking about 2D. Wish we could have 2D. And you know, the studios don't want to, man. They don't want to do it for, you know, the whole film, but just when they give us this taste in the credits, like, I'm satisfied. I'm satiated. I can handle it for now. I mean, yes, I'd like to see a full movie, but yeah, this works.
Well, a lot of the cartoons that are on like Netflix and stuff are in a 2D style. Yeah. I couldn't tell if that was CeeLo Green or Jack Black singing in the end.
That was the biggest thing when it first started out. At the time, I'll be honest, I had no idea who CeeLo Green was. Like, the only reason I knew who he was now is because I started watching The Voice, and I was like, hey, who is this guy? And who with all the crazy costumes and whatnot.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not much of a fan, but then I started hearing a couple of his songs and like being like, oh, that song or that song. But yeah, the moment this ended, it pops up and I'm like, is that CeeLo Green? I was like, oh, I had no idea that that's who I'd been listening to all these years.
Yeah, so the credits are cool. And then there's a tiny little scene at the very, very end.
There is?
There is, yeah.
Oh, I missed it. I went to bed. I watched this really late.
It kind of connects to that seed that Shifu planted, in anger, because he's arguing with Oogway that, Oogway argues that you can't control anything, really, and he uses the tree, as an allegory, and then Shifu is like, yeah, but I can choose when the fruit falls, and I can plant me a seed, and I can choose how I do that. And so, he kind of mashes that one seed in the ground. So by the end, you see that by the tree, the seed has sprouted. It's a little plant now.
Aww.
And they are sitting there eating dumplings together.
Oh, and they're sharing their dumplings. So
even
cute.
Cuter.
Dumplings.
I like it.
Yeah. So anyway, I really like this film. And I don't know if I like this one or the sequel even more, but now I'm excited to go into Kung Fu Panda 2.
Right away. Back to back.
Back to back. So let's rate it, shall we?
We shall.
I'm going to give this film 4 stars. I really didn't know where to put it because I really liked it, the whole thing. I don't know. I couldn't give it a 5-star because it was not quite to the 5-star rating for me. And yeah, I felt like it was a good, solid 4 stars.
Very good. I'm also going to give it 4 stars. I think this movie is great. It's funny. The characters are really memorable. I love Po. I can't wait to see him again in the sequel. I love Master Shifu. I love the villain. And I do agree with Mason. The actual Furious Five, who are supposed to be these big epic characters, kind of are flat, except for Tigress. She kind of has the most depth to her. But, as a group, they're really not that great. But everything around this movie is just, it's great. It's really streamlined. I love the story that it tells. So 4 stars.
Yep. I think 4 stars for me too. I don't know. And I think for the same exact reasons that Morgan said, the Furious 5 could have been expanded a little more, but all in all, it was extremely masterful animation and really cool use of light and color, especially the color. I don't know, there's some of these scenes where they're zoomed out and you see these beautiful picturesque, mountains in China and all the colors and stuff. And it all just, of course, I know a lot of that is matte painting, but just how the artwork all comes together into this cohesive production it was really beautiful. So yeah, 4 stars. It's a really, really good film.
Hey, Morgan, Mason, and Chelsea, it's Mark. Just want to say I'm glad you guys are finally reviewing Kung Fu Panda. It's one of my favorite DreamWorks films, actually probably my number 3 favorite DreamWorks film. And it's actually my dad's favorite DreamWorks animation film, so we'll be looking forward to listening to this. Thanks.
Okay, so on Twitter, we asked our listeners to give us their thoughts on this film. And the question today was, which member of the Furious Five is your favorite and why? And we got someone saying Timmy the dog, #fail. And none of us really understand this. So we're just going to move on.
Next.
I don't think this person's seen the movie, and that's why. Maybe. Oh. I don't know. Daniel C. says Mantis, size doesn't matter. And Crystal, who spells her Crystal with a D, says Tigress because she tried so hard to get what she wanted. And even when she didn't, she learned to accept it. Oh, that's great.
Gianna Lee also agrees. Tigress, she's strong-willed and knows what she wants, but also has a soft side to her that I hope will be seen more in Kung Fu Panda 3. And then Marky Mark Brown says, I'm not really ecstatic about any and much prefer the other characters of the film, but if I had to pick maybe Mantis, I'd pick him mostly because I remember his lines best, and they were amusing. Eric tweets, Monkey because he is voiced by legendary martial arts actor Jackie Chan.
And lastly, Princess Gem says Tigress and Viper. Tigress being the best, but had great development, and Viper because she always has a good heart, despite not being the main focus of the film. It clearly showed.
Oh yeah, Viper was really sweet.
She was a sweetheart.
She's cute. I love her flower.
And she also rocks the lipstick while she's fighting.
Everybody is kung fu fighting. Your mind becomes fast and lightning. Although the picture is a little bit frightening. The life that you're riding. You're a diamond in the rough.
All right, guys, that is all we have for this episode of the Animation Addicts podcast. If you are interested in show notes and to join the discussion to give us your review of this film, go to rotoscopers.com/90. We are in the 90s, guys. We should just do a whole bunch of 90s movies just for fun. Disney movies that were, okay, 91 will be Beauty and the Beast.
We really should.
92 will be Aladdin. 93 will be, I think, Rescuers Down Under 2, or Rescuers Down Under. Anyways, that's just a pipe dream right now. Our next episode actually is going to be Kung Fu Panda 2, so be sure to send in your voicemails at rotoscopers.com/voicemails, or you can dial in at 406-646-ROTO. Also, be sure to support the show using our Amazon affiliate links, rotoscopers.com/Amazon. And if you're interested in audiobooks, rotoscopers.com/Audible. And if you love t-shirt and fun Rotoscopers memorabilia, go to rotoscopers.com/store. And one quick reminder, I mentioned this at the beginning, but guys, we are nominated for the Podcast Awards. This is a huge honor. We are up against some big competition, and we were nominated last year for just one podcast award. And this year we were actually nominated for 2. Which this all goes to show you guys nominated us, got us in the top 10 for each category. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So the 2 categories that we are nominated in. The first one is Best Produced. And guys, can I just tell you, the Best Produced podcast, this is a tough, tough category. We were up against shows like The Adam Carolla Show. And he's a full-time podcaster. He gets paid to podcast. And he has a crew of people who are paid to help make sure that his show is best produced. And then the other category that we are nominated in is movies/film. Again, we're up against some amazing podcasts such as Schmo's Nose and The Film Sack. Just, there's a lot of good, really cool people out there talking about movies. But the coolest thing about this, guys, is a lot of these big podcasters, yes, they get nominated, but a lot of times they don't really care about the awards and they don't let their fans know to vote. And as a result, they don't win. So this is where you guys come in, us and our amazing Roto community. We are here together and we can make this happen this year. To sweeten the pot a little, we decided that if we win one of the podcast awards this year, that we are going to do listener choice episodes for the rest of 2015. That is huge because we get emails all the time saying, oh, could you review this movie or this movie or this one's my favorite? And there's just too many to get to. But if we win, then that can finally happen. What we'll end up doing is we'll probably have a poll on the website or just a random drawing where you can submit through a survey, and then we'll randomly pick somebody and the movie that they suggested, and then we'll go ahead and do it. So vote, 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 vote. We need your help. Voting is easy. Every single day from now until March 24th, just go to podcastawards.com and then vote for us in Best Produced and Movie/Film. You just have to put in your name and email address and click submit, and then you will get a confirmation email to verify your vote. So that's very important. At the beginning of the podcast awards, some things were messed up and that wasn't working correctly. So that's why they extended the date to the 24th. So make sure to verify your vote. If you're not getting it, check in your spam folder. It's probably getting lost in there. But yeah, voting is so easy. You can even set a reminder on your phone with Siri and you say, Siri, can you remind me every single day at 10 a.m. to vote for the podcast awards? And she'll do it. It's so easy, guys. Vote for us, podcastawards.com. Fingers crossed. And thank you guys so much. Again, thank you so much, guys, for listening to us. I'm Morgan Stradling. You can find me on Twitter at Morgan Stradling.
You can find me, Chelsea Robson, on Twitter at Chelsea Robson. Mason.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, we're mixing it up.
You can find me on Twitter at MasonSMTX, and same on Instagram. You can check out my semi-professional school portfolio, masonsmithportfolio.com.
So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Let us know in the show notes, again, what you think about this episode. And until next time,
we are the Rotoscopers.
Sorry, there's a delay, clearly.
No, I think you guys are just talking over each other. Or not? ¿Qué pasó? She went away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
actually, our very own Steve Hickner did a lot of the story art for them.
Yeah, Steve. Our very own. We own him.
I was like, really?
Yeah,
We own him now.
we own the rights to Steve Hickner.
Good
Yeah. In the prison, you know, it's kind of this like subdued blue, but all the highlights are red, you know, so it's very harsh. I feel sorry for people who are colorblind who have to watch it, but
Is the dress blue and black or white and
oh,
gold?
don't
date our
even
podcast.
don't even podcast foul.
Got it.
No kidding, man. But anyway,
Blooper.
so yeah, Tai Lung is pretty cool, and he manages to not kill anyone but still be the bad guy.